You see, when we're young, the world feels open, full of doors waiting to be knocked on. Friends, family, neighbors, they all seem like an endless circle, a place where we belong. But as the years pass, something shifts. The visits we once made so freely, the homes we entered without hesitation, those spaces begin to feel different. And the truth is, as we grow older, it is often said, one should not go visiting around. But why? Why do the wise ones before us say this? And what lessons lie in this old saying? That's what we'll talk about today. Before we get further, I'd like to know where you're joining us from. And if these words bring you any value, a like and subscribe would mean a lot. Not for numbers or vanity, but because wisdom, when shared, finds its way to those who need it most. Now, let's get into it. At a certain age, dignity matters more than companionship. It's not that people stop loving you. It's not that you are unwelcome. But life moves in cycles. And the truth of the matter is that in old age, there is wisdom in knowing when to step back. When we are young, visiting is natural. We come and go, sit and talk, share in each other's lives. But as time passes, we start noticing something subtle yet important. Not every door we once entered remains open in the same way. Not every welcome is as warm as it used to be. Somewhere along the way, people get busy, children grow up, friends move on, and even family, though they may love you, get caught up in their own lives. It's not personal, it's just life. But an old person who does not recognize this, who continues to go from house to house, overstaying, expecting the same warmth as before, often finds themselves feeling more and more out of place. And there's no greater sorrow than realizing you have become an uninvited guest in a place where you once belonged. That is why the elders say, in old age, do not go visiting around, not because you should isolate yourself, but because you must preserve your dignity. The greatest peace comes not from being everywhere, but from knowing where you are truly wanted. A wise elder knows this and does not impose. They do not linger in spaces where they are merely tolerated. They do not chase after company, but instead allow company to seek them. But this is not an easy lesson to accept, because we all remember a time when the doors were always open, when people called us in with warmth, when laughter and conversations stretched long into the evening. And so, there is a part of us that resists this truth, that wants to believe that nothing has changed. But time does not ask for permission to change things. It simply does. There comes a moment in life when you must stop chasing people, not out of pride, not out of stubbornness, but out of self-respect. When you were young, you could knock on doors, walk in unannounced, stay as long as you pleased. But age changes the equation. It is not that you become less valuable. In fact, your wisdom and presence are priceless, but they are meant to be received, not imposed. There is a different kind of presence that an elder must embody, the kind that does not demand but instead attracts. When you carry yourself with quiet dignity, people will naturally come to you. They will seek your words, your company, your guidance. They will call on you, not out of obligation, but because they truly want you there. And that is the difference. A visit made in longing is a gift. A visit made in obligation is a burden. An elder who understands this will never feel like an outsider. They will never find themselves knocking on doors that are reluctant to open. Instead, they will be the ones whose presence is cherished, whose absence is felt. This is not to say you must shut yourself away. No, life is meant to be lived, and relationships must be nurtured, but it must be done with wisdom. Rather than going from house to house seeking warmth, it is far better to create a warmth of your own, one that draws people in rather than chases them down. There is a deep peace in being content with your own company, in knowing that you do not need to be everywhere, in every conversation, in every gathering. The older you get, the more you must master the art of quiet presence, the ability to be there without needing to be seen, to be heard without having to speak too much, to be valued without needing to constantly remind people of your worth. It is better to have fewer, genuine invitations than many forced courtesies. It is better to be sought after for your wisdom than to be pitied for your loneliness. And this is what the elders understood. There is a certain grace in knowing when to step back, in allowing life to come to you rather than always chasing after it. So, as you grow older, ask yourself, do I visit because I am truly welcomed or because I fear being alone? Do I go from house to house seeking company, or have I built a space where company comes to find me? These are not easy questions, but they are important ones. There's a deep and often unspoken truth about life. No matter how much love exists, relationships change with time. In childhood, we are at the center of everything. People fuss over us, check in on us, make sure we are never alone. In youth, we are surrounded by friendships, work, and responsibilities, constantly moving from one thing to another. But in old age, the rhythm slows down. The people who once called daily now check in once a month. The gatherings that were once lively and frequent become rare. It's not because they have stopped caring. It's because life has pulled them in different directions. At first, this realization stings. You begin to wonder, was I only important when I was useful? Do they no longer love me? But this is where wisdom must step in. Because if you look closely, you will see that the world has always moved like this. Even you, in your younger days, got caught up in your own life, work, marriage, children, responsibilities. Did you visit your elders as often as you should have? Did you call them every single day? No, not because you didn't love them, but because life had a way of keeping you busy. And now, the cycle has turned, and you stand on the other side. This is why old age is not a time to chase after people. It is a time to understand the natural flow of relationships. If you find yourself visiting too much, constantly reaching out, trying to insert yourself into people's lives, you may unknowingly push them away. Not because they don't love you, but because human nature resists pressure. The more you try to force closeness, the more people pull away. But when you give space, when you carry yourself with quiet dignity, the same people will begin to miss you. They will remember your wisdom, your presence, and they will come to you, not out of duty, but out of genuine love. There is another thing to consider. Old age brings a shift in energy. When we were younger, we brought enthusiasm, laughter, and liveliness into any space we entered. But as the years pass, our presence changes. We may carry wisdom, but we also carry stories of loss, nostalgia, and sometimes silent grief. While our hearts are full of memories, the younger generation is busy making their own. And if we are not careful, we may unintentionally bring an energy that does not match theirs. This does not mean we are unwanted. It simply means we must learn to match our presence to the occasion. An elder who brings lightness, who listens more than they speak, who shares wisdom without judgment, will always be cherished. But an elder who constantly complains, compares the past to the present, or demands attention, may find themselves quietly avoided. So, the question is, how do you remain valued without forcing yourself into people's lives? The answer is simple. Create your own world. Instead of going out too much, cultivate a space that people want to visit. Have something to offer, whether it's good conversation, a peaceful atmosphere, or simply the warmth of your presence. A person who is content within themselves attracts others naturally. People love being around someone who is at peace, who does not need constant reassurance, who is comfortable in their own solitude. Many elders make the mistake of focusing too much on what they have lost, the busy home, the frequent visitors, the constant calls. But instead of mourning what has changed, embrace what is now. Find joy in simple routines, in quiet mornings, in the beauty of stillness. The greatest freedom in old age is not needing validation from others. Once you master this, you will never feel left out again. There's another reason why visiting too much can become a problem. As we grow older, we unknowingly begin to depend more on others for company, for attention, for a sense of belonging. And while family and friends may love you, they also have their own struggles. If your presence starts feeling like a responsibility rather than a joy, the relationship changes. People start feeling guilty, burdened, and eventually they distance themselves. This is why independence, both emotional and social, is crucial in old age. Have your own activities, your own interests. Whether it's reading, gardening, prayer, or even simple walks, fill your time with things that nourish you. That way, when people visit, they will see a person who is whole, not someone waiting for them to bring meaning to their day. The less you rely on others to fill your time, the more they will want to be around you. And remember this, some visits are better left unmade. Not every place you once belonged to is the same. Some houses that were once warm are now filled with their own tensions. Some people who once welcomed you now have their own burdens. Learn to read the room. If your presence brings discomfort, step back. If your visits are met with forced smiles, don't force them again. Protect your dignity above all. It is far better to be missed than to be merely tolerated. There is a difference between being forgotten and choosing to be at peace with the way life flows. Many people fear that if they stop visiting, stop checking in, stop reminding others of their presence, they will fade from their lives. But here is the truth. Those who truly value you will not forget you. And those who would forget you were never meant to be your source of happiness to begin with. Instead of constantly going from house to house, trying to maintain connections, it is far better to cultivate a presence that people naturally want to be around. Have you ever noticed how some elders rarely leave their homes, yet people always seek them out? It is not because they demand attention, nor because they constantly remind others of their existence. It is because they have created something that draws people in. A person who is calm within, who radiates peace, wisdom, and warmth, will never be lonely. People are naturally drawn to those who make them feel good, who listen without judgment, who offer guidance without control. If you want to be remembered, to be sought after, focus not on forcing your presence, but on making it a gift. One of the best ways to do this is to become a good listener. In old age, we have so much to say. We have lived. We have experienced. We have seen things younger people have not. But here's where many elders go wrong. They talk too much and listen too little. When you always bring up the past, always correct others, always feel the need to teach, people begin to avoid you. Not because your wisdom isn't valuable, but because no one likes to feel like they are being lectured. The elders who are most cherished are the ones who listen first, the ones who let people speak, who make others feel heard, who do not judge but simply understand. When you become someone people can confide in, they will always seek your presence. And when they seek you out, you will never feel the need to chase them. Another way to maintain meaningful relationships is to show kindness in small but powerful ways. You don't have to visit constantly to remind people that you care. A simple message, a thoughtful gesture, a kind word, these things go a long way. When people think of you, they should feel warmth, not pressure. They should remember the comfort of your presence, not the weight of your expectations. And remember this, sometimes distance makes the heart grow fonder. If you are always present, always available, always there, people begin to take you for granted. But when you give space, when you allow absence to do its work, people start to miss you. They begin to realize the value of your presence. This is not about playing games. It is about understanding human nature. A well-timed visit, a rare but meaningful presence, will always be cherished more than constant visits that feel routine or expected. It is far better to leave someone wishing you had stayed longer than to stay so long that they secretly wish you would leave. Now, there will be moments when you feel a pang of loneliness. It is natural. But this is why it is so important to build a fulfilling life that does not depend entirely on others. Find something to love, whether it's a hobby, a spiritual practice, nature, or even the simple pleasure of a quiet afternoon. When you are content on your own, you become more enjoyable to be around. People can sense when someone is at peace, and they are drawn to it. One of the greatest mistakes elders make is expecting younger generations to fill the emotional gaps that life has left behind. It is not their burden to carry. Yes, family should care. Yes, friends should check in. But no one can be your constant source of happiness. That is something you must cultivate within yourself. So, if you find yourself feeling like you must visit to be remembered, pause. Ask yourself, am I seeking connection, or am I trying to escape my own solitude? Because there is a difference. Seeking connection is natural, but constantly needing to be around people to feel valued, that is a sign that something within needs to be healed. Learn to enjoy your own company. The quieter you become, the more you will hear the whispers of your own wisdom, the gentle call of your own peace. And when you have mastered this, you will never feel left out again. As you grow older, you must learn to sit comfortably with your own company. Solitude is not loneliness unless you fear it. There is a difference between being alone and being abandoned. You are not abandoned simply because people have their own lives. You are not forgotten simply because visits become fewer. This is simply the way life moves. Seasons change, roles shift, and priorities evolve. The greatest gift you can give yourself in old age is the ability to enjoy your own presence. When you stop seeking fulfillment from others, you begin to find it in the quiet moments. The gentle breeze in the morning, the way the sunlight falls through the trees, the simple joy of a warm cup of tea. These are not small things. These are the very essence of peace. And here is a truth many do not realize until it is too late. When you become content with your own solitude, you become more magnetic to others. The elders who are most cherished, most sought after, are not those who constantly visit, not those who demand attention, but those who exude a quiet, unshakable peace. People are drawn to those who do not need them, but rather appreciate them. There is a difference between needing company to fill a void and simply enjoying the presence of others when it naturally comes. That is why in old age, the focus must shift. Instead of seeking to be everywhere, build a space that people long to return to. Let your home be a place of warmth and wisdom, not a place of complaints and expectations. Let your presence be one that uplifts, not one that drains. People will always be drawn to where they feel comfortable, where they feel heard, where they feel valued. And if you create that environment, you will never be alone. But even beyond companionship, there is something more important: legacy. As you move further into old age, the question is no longer about who visits or who doesn't. The real question is, what are you leaving behind? What memories will people hold of you? Will they remember you as someone who was always searching, always clinging, always bitter about the past? Or will they remember you as someone who was full of wisdom, grace, and kindness? The words you speak, the way you carry yourself, the energy you bring into a room, these things matter more than you realize. People may forget visits, but they will never forget how you made them feel. They will remember the way you smiled even when life was difficult. They will remember how you never complained, how you always had something wise to say, how you made them feel at peace just by being around. This is what truly remains. Not how many houses you visited, not how many times you were invited, but the impact you left on the hearts of those you met. So do not waste these years running after people who are too busy to see your worth. Instead, spend them becoming the kind of person that people never want to lose. Cultivate wisdom, patience, and kindness. Let your presence be light, not heavy. Let your visits be rare, but deeply meaningful. Be the kind of elder that people seek not out of obligation, but because they feel better just by being near you. And if on some days the loneliness creeps in, remind yourself, you are enough as you are. You do not need a crowded house to be whole. You do not need constant attention to be valuable. Your worth is not in how many places you go, but in the peace you carry within. True fulfillment in old age does not come from chasing people. It comes from embracing life as it is, with grace, with dignity, and with the quiet confidence that you have lived well. So when you hear the wisdom of the elders say, in old age, do not go visiting around, understand that it is not a command to isolate yourself, but a reminder to protect your dignity, to value your own peace, and to trust that the right people, the ones who truly care, will always find their way back to you. And if they don't, let them go with love, knowing that you are and always have been enough.